So today, what I want to talk about is a process for actors, something actors actually need: headshot, resume, a demo reel. So I want to talk about a step-by-step guides per se, or information for you as an actor to put together your own demo reel. If you're just starting out in this business, or if you've been doing it for a while, but you don't have a lot of footage, or you may have some small clips that you've shot over the years, and you want to put that together so that an agent or a casting director or a filmmaker or producer or director, someone you know, can see your work on camera. One of the first steps I always tell actors when they come to me and they say, I want to put together a demo reel. Now, this is something that I've done for actors for over 30 years. I've built demo reels for actors to help showcase their talent and to be able to, most of the time they use it to attract agents. And then once you have an agent and you're being submitted for work, the agent uses the demo reel or clips from the demo reel to submit you for different roles. So a demo reel is a really important tool for an actor. So the first thing I tell the actor is to define the type of character that you can play best or that you're most drawn to. I spoke in an earlier video about playing to your type. I know a lot of actors want to believe that they can play any type of role. You know, they maybe can develop a character and learn to do it. And some people can do that. But the majority of actors are a type. Even if you get to be big, a working actor, you know, even some of the A-list actors, if you look at them, you can say, and people say the same thing. They say, oh, he always plays the same character, because that's his type. That's how he became successful. And that's why he or she plays those types of roles, because those roles are needed in projects. You know, you can have A-list actors who are types. You can have actors who are small who are types. And so you need to embrace that. I'm not saying that you have to play that type forever. If you have the talent and you have the ability and you have the luck, which is a great thing to have and it's necessary in this business, you can switch to different types of characters. So once you decide on what your type is, I'm checking my little list right here so I can make sure I hit all the points. This might have to be broken into a couple of videos because there's a lot to talk about when you're thinking about, or you're on the very first stages of putting together a reel for yourself that's going to represent you as an actor. With video being everywhere nowadays, this is something that has to be done. You're going to need it. In the past, casting directors or agents sometimes would have you come into their office and do a scene. I know that can be possible sometimes now these days, but before they even let you in their office, they want to see some of your work. And the easiest way to do that is by having a reel that you can send them the link to. So you want to clarify, as they say, the reel's purpose. And is my reel primarily to secure an agent? Now, you can have multiple reels. You can have a dramatic reel, you can have a comedy reel, you can have a reel that's, you know, somewhere in between drama and comedy. If you're a stunt performers have stunt reels. You know, if you play an instrument, you may have a reel that, you know, have different clips of you acting and playing that instrument. So I always say that one reel is not one size fits all. That's why when you're on a service like Actors Access or the Casting Network, you can have individual clips. But those individual clips usually come from your reel. And you can take those clips and make a custom reel. So you want to define the purpose of the reel that you're about to send out to someone. And like I said, some can be comedy, some can be drama. You can have an overall general reel, but it's good to have those individual clips and some reels already put together. So the next step would be, if you don't have the footage available and you have some projects that you've worked on in the past, you want to start the hard process of collecting those clips. What I tell actors too is, if you work with student films, non-union films, you know, independent producers, and also even if you work on projects where the project is released, but they're not going to probably give you a copy. But nowadays you can easily get a copy online. You can easily get copies from DVDs. So getting the footage from large projects is usually not that much of a big deal. But the hard part can be getting copies of projects from smaller productions. So you want to gather all your footage and you want to get it into one place. And then you want to review that footage and see what are your strongest clips. Let me make sure that's on my list. Yes, you want to make sure you're using your strongest clips the strongest bits of the scenes that you've worked on. Don't get caught into the habit, and I did it when I was young and I was starting out. Sometimes you want to keep a clip and you want it to be too long because, oh, I walked in the door and I picked up this and then I walked over and I said my dialogue. And I say that I've done that in the past as a mistake. They're looking at the reel so they can see your acting ability, so they can see you interacting with other characters. So you want to trim it. You want to always trim your scenes and your clips to when you are doing your performance. Sometimes you may need to leave a little bit lead in so it can have some context, but don't get too carried away. I've had people come to me in the past when I'm editing reels and they weren't trying to put together a stunt reel, but they didn't have a lot of content. So they wanted to have, maybe when they got out of the car and they walked into the store, they did their shopping, and then they went up to the register and they delivered one line. Casting people don't want to see that. They want to see you interacting with other actors, delivering dialogue. They want to see how you deliver your dialogue, and they want to see how you listen as someone is delivering dialogue to you. And sometimes you'll be in a scene, and this happened to me a number of times, even in the past few years, where I have a great scene. I'm so happy for it. I'm in there with the lead character where we're having a conversation, and most of my dialogue, unfortunately, happens off camera. And they want to see, because the truth of it is they want to see the lead character, how they're reacting to what me as a supporting actor is saying to them. So that happens. That's part of the business. Smaller roles aren't the main driving factor or the main point in scenes. Your character may be a small character. You may be there just to move the story forward or to advance something like that. So, you still want that on your reel, but you want to have, more scenes where you're on camera speaking as possible. And then sometimes, like I said, you'll be speaking and they'll have a few of your lines on camera, and then they'll go to the principal actor to get his reaction. And that's just the business. So, but you still want those, and those you can keep. I'm not saying cut that out. If you're in a scene and you have a lot of dialogue, we as the casting people can still hear you. We can hear how you deliver the lines. And then they're going to probably cut back to you for a reaction. That's why I'm saying listening to is a very important part. Next on my list here is, let's see. Always request your footage as early as possible, especially when working on independent productions. Get numbers and email addresses from people who you're working with, so that you can have a network of people if you can't get the footage. You want to know, if you can get the director's number, if you can get the producer's number, great. Casting people, you want to get fellow actors so you can network, because sometimes some actors get the footage quicker than others, and maybe they can share it with you. So you want to do that while you're on the set, while you're networking. Don't make a pain of yourself about doing it, but tell them up front. I'd like to make can I get your email address so I can contact you once it's done? I know it's going to be a while, and you're not going to be pestering them. And you can even say that, you don't have to say I'm going to hound you for it, as soon as I walk off set. But, you want to have a way to contact so that you can get copies of your footage. And just let them know how important it is to you, that you think this is a good scene and you hope it turns out well, and you want to make sure that you're able to reach out to people to get a copy of it once it's done. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Again, here's another important part. If you're new and you're just starting out, you might not have enough footage to put together a reel. So a lot of people tell actors over the years, shy away from making your own footage. And the reason they say that is because you don't want something that looks terrible. You don't want something that looks completely amateurish. You want a reel that looks like professional footage. I always tell actors, if you have some professional footage, then you can supplement. That makes it easier on you, because you can supplement some stuff where you hire someone to do it, or if you know someone who's a filmmaker, you want people to do it. Basically, what I'm saying is you want people to create. If you're creating your own footage, you want it to look professional. Don't get carried away with a bunch of stunts and trying to get into fancy locations, because what's important on self-made footage for an acting reel is your acting. I always tell actors, we're going to see you mostly. When I shoot demo scenes for actors, I shoot wide shots, medium shots, close-ups. I get all the necessary coverage, reversals over the shoulders. I get cut-ins, cutaways. I make it look like it's from a real film production, because that's my background also as a director and a film producer. So when I do demo scenes, I specialize in making it look like it's from something larger. But a lot of demo scene shooters don't do that. So you want to find people who do that. You want to look at some of their work and see if this looks like it's from a larger production. Is the sound good? Is the lighting good? And one thing I want to say also too, you don't want to go to someone to shoot your footage. Maybe you have a friend who's in film school, and I've seen this a lot. Actors go and they maybe even invest some money in the project so that they can get, some footage for their demo scene. And you need to find out how it's going to be shot. Some people don't like you. I like you to ask them how they're going to shoot it, but you want to see samples of their work, and especially if you're paying for it, you want to see samples of their work and see how it's shot. You don't want to get the moody X-Files kind of look because the casting people or the director can't see your face. I've seen a lot of demo reels of actors where filmmakers have shot it for them and with the express purpose of using it on their demo reel. You can't see their faces, they're in shadows, they got low shots, they got these close-ups of the eyes, all this artistic film school stuff, which is good if you're making a film and that's your style and that's what you want to do. Yes, that's great. But if you're shooting a scene for an actor to use where he or she wants to try and get some work from it, they need to be seen clearly. They need to be heard clearly. You need to have cuts that are standard cuts where, if the actor's on camera, he speaks, you cut to him. The other person cuts, you cut back to the other person. You can have a little bit of that overlap to give the feeling of a traditional film, but you don't want to do, big chunks of dialogue for the actor who is paying or using it for their demo reel when they're not on camera. So, most of the time I have a couple of long-standing clients who I cut demo scenes for them, for their students and their clients, a couple of acting teachers. And so what I always do is it's traditional speak, cut, speak, cut. Sometimes I have a little bit of overlap, what they call L cuts in the business, so that you'll hear me talking like this right now, and then the other actor may say one word, and then we cut to the other person. So you have that overlap, so it's not so monotonous of just cutting back and forth. But mainly, it is cutting back and forth, especially when both actors want to use it. Now, sometimes you'll have an actor who will have a scene partner, and the scene is specifically written for that actor, and the scene partner maybe sometimes has one or two lines. So when they say those one or two lines, we cut to them for those one or two lines, and then we cut back to the principal actor. So that's again to say that if you're creating original footage, you want it to sound good, you want it to look good. You don't need a whole bunch of Michael Mann cutting shots, camera moving here and there. That's not what the casting person or the agent is looking for. They're not going to be impressed by the fancy camera work or the fancy lighting or the fancy special effects. Their special effects are so easy to do nowadays. Sometimes I'll get actors where, their hands are glowing and, got a lightsaber and they're firing off blanks because you can do all that stuff real easy nowadays with the technology. But that's not what the casting person or the film director is looking for. They want to see you on camera acting and reacting in a scene with another actor. They don't want to see you walking in the door, getting out the car, laying on the couch, opening your lunch. I've even had one time I was doing a demo scene for an actress, and luckily I always get into the habit of I tell them to, if I write the scene, then I know what's in it, obviously. But if they want to do their own scene, I give them that option. So they'll write a scene and they'll send it to me, and I always have to have approval on the scene. Some people don't like that, but it pays off because I can give them my advice. And also, sometimes one person wanted to do, this actress wanted to do I thought she was kidding at first. She wanted to do a mud fight. And I shoot a lot of demo scenes here at my home. And she wanted to do a mud fight in the living room. And I thought it was a joke. And then I contacted her, but it wasn't. So we ended up not working together. But anyway, number 4, you want to structure your reel. Now, you want it to be, like I said, you can make custom reels because ultimately a reel is made up of individual scenes. But I normally say you don't want your reel to go over 3 or 4 minutes. If you're making a generic reel or you're making a custom reel, you want to put the best stuff up front because you don't know how long they're going to look at it. You don't know how much time they have to look at your reel. So you want to get the good stuff up front. Even myself, I've been doing this for 35 years. And what I want to say too, I didn't forget today. Please hit the subscribe button for me down there. I'm trying to get more subscribers to the channel. I've been getting a lot, and I'm thankful for all you who have subscribed, and spread the word about my site. But anyway, back to, what was I talking about here? Back to the length. I already talked about the length. Um, you want your scenes to be, like I said, somewhere between 3 and 5 minutes well, 3 and 4 minutes at the most. 5 minutes is kind of stretching it. But you want to put the scenes in a certain order. You want to put the good stuff up first, where you're the best stuff up first, because like I said, you don't know how long they're going to watch it. So that's what I was saying. Sometimes over the years, I've put scenes that were more higher profile I've done in with, A-list actors, and I may only had a few lines. So I put those up front. But once I did learn that, again, what I tell you, which I knew in the back of my mind, but you want to have the substantial scenes so they can see your performance. That's what they're interested in. If you have some good scenes where you've done a lot of good dialogue and you're interacting with characters and you're believable and you're relaxed and you're natural, that's what you want to lead with. And that's how I even rearranged my reel about a year ago. And it started working much better, because they get to see what they want to see right up front. And then they can watch as much as they want. So keep that in mind. You want to put your best stuff up front. And when I say best stuff, I mean the best stuff where it's showing your talent, where it's showing how you act. Are you believable on camera? Are you relaxed? Will people believe you are the character that you're supposed to be playing? Are you natural? So that's the things the casting directors are looking for. That's the things agents are looking for, producers, directors. Let's see, what's next? Keeping it there. Let me move up here a little bit. Sorry about that. Monitor went to sleep here. Oh, here we go. Edit professionally. If you're hiring someone to do the scene, most of the time you're going to hire someone who's going to shoot and edit. They have all the equipment. They have everything you need. A lot of times people have locations where they shoot. I normally do that. And sometimes I even go on location. I will do location shoots with actors to build their demo scene reel. So that's something that I offer also, and I've been doing that for years. So you want it edited professionally. If that same person who's shooting is an editor, great, because they know the footage in and out because they shot it. And hopefully they can build the best scene and also look at your best performance. Because sometimes you have to cut for certain different reasons, which may not be just because of performance. But what I normally do when I edit, I look at the scene, cut it together, then I look at the scene for performance. And if I need to make adjustments, oh, you know what, he did that scene or she did that scene better on the third take. And I'll use the best take and I'll work that in somehow. So you want to keep that in mind. You want to talk with the filmmaker who's putting it together. Sometimes you can even collaborate with them. And you need to talk about this all up front, because sometimes that can increase the price. I've worked with actors in the past who, want to sit in and edit with me. I don't really do that anymore. But you can find editors who will do that. I give people my cut, and then if they want to make some suggestions, I give them a couple of suggestions. I give them a couple of revisions, and they can make those revisions. They can make the cuts. And I also, another thing that I do, which is great, I give the actors all the raw footage. I give them the scene and then all the raw footage, and sometimes they'll look at it and they'll want to use this take and use that take. And if it'll work, I have an amount of revisions built into my service. And so a lot of people that shoot demo scenes for actors have that too. So you need to get all that information up front. So you want to have it shot professionally, edited professionally, because you want the scenes that you create yourself to look like they're really from something. You don't want it to just be, and I've seen this a lot too, where you'll have an actor standing against a wall and they're talking, and it looks like they're doing an audition, and they're talking to somebody off camera right here. That's not what we're looking for. That's not what they're looking for. You want something, again, that looks like a scene. Let's see. And then at the end, you want to have a slate that clearly gives your contact information, your name, if you have an agent, if you have a manager, you want all that stuff at the end. Do not start out, those days are gone. We don't need, as far as from a casting person's point of view, myself as a filmmaker, when I look at an actor's reel, I don't want to see a big fancy opening where it's a montage of headshots and it's a montage of what I'm going to see in the thing, in the show, in the reel. There's fancy titles flying in and out. I know some people put that on there. If you really want a title, you can have it maybe one blank slate at the beginning with your name, so that we'll know it's identifying it's you. And then at the end, that's where you have the slate with all your contact information, email. And I don't know, a lot of times I've gotten in the past reels that weren't even labeled as far as what the video file is. So you want to make sure your name and contact and number or email address are connected in the file name of the video if you're sending it out to someone. Obviously, if it's on YouTube or Vimeo, it will have the name and everything on your site. But at the end, you still should have a slate that says your name and how they can reach you if they like you. So that's the long and short of it, actors getting a demo reel together. Like I said, you can have a drama, comedy, and something somewhere in between. You want to show some kind of range, even if you're not comfortable with comedy or maybe you're not comfortable with drama. Don't make the scenes too long. Each scene should somewhere be, excuse me, each scene should be somewhere between 2 minutes. And within that 2 minutes, you probably want to pick the best of the 2 minutes. You don't have to use the whole 2 minutes because, say, for instance, you have 3 clips and that's 2, 4, 6 minutes right there. Remember I said you want to try to go somewhere between 2 and 3 minutes for a reel. But again, the beauty of it is you're not throwing that material away because you'll have individual clips. We can also post them online. So that's the beauty of having video on the internet, putting together, a website, your own personal website where you have as many clips as you want. Vimeo site, you can set up players. YouTube, you can set up, what is it called, a channel. You can have where clips are all grouped together and you can send those clips out to someone if they want to see more work. So you'll have a reel and you maybe have a bunch of clips. That's what I do. I have a Vimeo player on my actor side, site that I use. If a casting person wants to see more of my work, I have a bunch of clips and they can look at them at their leisure. But that's the last thing I send out. Or once they look on my resume, they can see it and then they can go to that if they want to see more. But the reel, the short reel, 3 to 4 minutes, is the first bit that everyone would see if they want to look for a reel. You can find my reel on my IMDb page and get a sample of how I cut it together. But there are plenty of samples all across the internet of good reels. And I would recommend that you look at reels. Actively go out and look for not known actors. I'm not talking about A-list actors or even actors who are recognizable. I'm talking about actors, character actors. The majority of SAG actors are unrecognizable. So you can search actors reel and you'll find a lot of services. You'll find a lot of reels. Take a look at them and become familiar with them and see how you can make yours better. If you're making your own content, plan it out. Like if you're doing a short film shoot, if you want to shoot at different locations, that's great. Don't get carried away though with like I said, the entrances and the exits and all that kind of stuff. Remember, they're watching it because they want to see your performance, not your stunt fighting. I've had people that wanted to fight in the past. I've had people that wanted to dance on camera, and not because they were putting together a dancing reel. They just thought that would be cool to have a little dance and then I'll do my dialogue, So keep it to the purpose so they can see your acting talent. That's what they're watching it for, and that's what they want to see. That's what they expect to see. Thanks again. I'll see you on the next one.